Hello, my name is Joe Muraco and I'm your career counselor in the Graduate Center. Today I'll be talking with you briefly about things you can do to maximize your interview experience. There's a lot to cover here, and I won't be able to go into detail about everything. When you get to preparing for an actual interview, reach out to the Graduate Center for support. We offer mock interviews tailored to the specific position to which you will be interviewing. All right, let's start by quickly covering best practices for different interview formats. Virtual interviews are interviews, both via phone and platforms like Zoom, that you complete without having to travel to the employer. These are often first and second round interviews. You'll want to make sure your technology is up to date for these interviews and that you have a quiet and safe location from which to interview from. You'll also want to ensure you've communicated with the hiring committee a backup plan in case of any technical difficulties. For example, make sure the hiring committee has your phone number as backup to a Zoom interview. In-person interviews can take many forms and are usually reserved for the final or top candidates for a role. You're most likely to experience a one-on-one or panel interview where you'll be the only candidate interviewing at the time. In rare instances, you may interview as part of a group. Sequential interviews are a series of interviews back-to-back and are most likely to occur again for final or top candidates. When interviews take multiple hours or are a full day or more, you will likely be invited to meals as part of the experience. It's best practice to refrain from drinking alcohol at a meal, even if everyone else has a drink. Regardless of the type of interview you will have, you should be prepared to answer 4 types of questions. General. These are questions like, tell me about yourself, or what is your biggest strength or weakness? They're focused on overall background, fit, and interest in a role. Behavioral. These are questions that ask you to tell a story. For example, you may be asked to tell about a time you had to work with a difficult colleague, or about a time you had to communicate difficult news to someone. We recommend the STAR method for these types of questions. STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. Situational. These questions don't necessarily have a right or wrong, although they might, and instead are meant to help the interviewer understand how you would approach a situation and the things you would take into consideration. Technical. These questions assess your technical skills and abilities. You may be asked to walk through a specific process or procedure, or to show an interviewer how you would use a software or piece of equipment. Examples of general interview questions include, tell me about yourself, walk us through your resume, what one experience has best prepared you for this role, what's your biggest strength or weakness? Why do you want to work for us? What interests you most about this position? What do you know about the company for which you are interviewing? Examples of behavioral questions include, tell me about a time you worked as part of a team to achieve a goal. Tell us about a time you performed well in a stressful situation. Tell me about a time you took initiative and went beyond what was expected. Describe a recent problem you attempted to solve using a systematic and logical process. Examples of situational questions include, what would you do if you received conflicting information about a project you were working on? How would you handle a client who was unhappy with the quality of the work you were producing? And 2 people on your team do not get along and it is impacting your team's performance. What do you do? Lastly, examples of technical questions will vary depending on your industry, but might look like, what factors need to be considered when building a traffic signal system? What is your experience and knowledge of standards-based education? What procedures would you follow for a patient with fall precautions? What process would you use for developing a marketing strategy for our new product? And what is your experience using standardized assessments with children? Regardless of the types of questions asked, you want to make sure you are authentic, yourself, concise, and enthusiastic as much as possible. But wait, what questions will you be asked? How do you prepare? We'll start with the job description. Based on what they said they're looking for, what questions might you expect to be asked? Also, review your resume and cover letter. What skills and experiences did you highlight for them? Be prepared to talk about those during the interview. Review the company's website. Many will have about and newsroom pages that may contain useful information. And of course, search the company using Google and on sites like Glassdoor and LinkedIn to see what else you may find. Glassdoor contains information about interviews for a number of companies. While this works best for larger organizations, it is never a bad idea to see if the employer you'll be interviewing with is on site. Additionally, if you have connections in the field, either in similar roles or who work within the company, ask them about their interview experience. As you are affiliated with the University of Arizona, you also have access to Big Interview, which provides both interview curriculum and mock interview practice. Simply go to arizona.biginterview.com and log on with your University of Arizona Net ID and password to get started. You can explore their curriculum or jump right into their mock interview space. Also, as mentioned, you can always schedule a mock interview with your career counselor too. During the interview, don't forget you also get to interview them. Having questions prepared will ensure you ask about the things you care most about and can be a strategic way to highlight how well prepared you are for the role. Questions about the role and the company are always safe questions to ask. However, think creatively about how you ask what you are interested in. For example, asking, "What is the company culture like?" will likely get you a rehearsed response, while a question like, "Tell me about a colleague you're proud of and why," will elicit a more meaningful and insightful answer about what is valued within the workplace. Lastly, don't ignore your gut. If it's telling you something seems off during the interview, you may be perceiving something about the company or the team that is not overly explicit. After each interview, as there are likely to be more than one round of interviewing per position you apply to, send a thank you to each person with whom you spoke. The interview should be short. It should reiterate your excitement for the role and why you were a good fit, and it should be personalized to the person as much as you're able to. For example, one might write, "Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to speak with me yesterday about your project manager role. I am excited about the opportunity and believe my years of managing grants, research projects, and undergraduate semester-long educational experiences have provided me the skills necessary to be successful. I also really appreciated you taking the time to further explain the team structure and the new direction the company plans to move. I'm happy to answer any outstanding questions, and I look forward to hearing from the committee about their decision." If you find you only have the contact for one person, send a thank you to that individual and ask them to share with each person with whom you spoke. Of course, the tailoring won't be specific to any one individual, but can still highlight what you appreciated learning. This concludes the brief overview of things you can do to maximize your interview experience. Remember, we in the Graduate Center offer one-on-one career advising appointments and a monthly program called the Career Forward Sprint that helps participants maximize their non-academic job search. Check out what we have to offer by visiting gradcenter.arizona.edu/career-support. Thank you.